Do you have more questions than answers? We don't have all the solutions, but we do have a community of people just like you. We are the curious, the seekers, the concerned, those into data, and those that are dreamers. And the closer we get, the better we learn. About ourselves, each other, and about our planet. Now is the time to get closer. Join us. Get your free ticket to the Learning Planet Festival. festival.learning-planet.org.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for making the time today, and welcome to this session at Learning Planet, teacher masterclasses and SDG workshops, teaching to take care of oneself, others, and the planet. We have an incredibly exciting lineup of speakers for you today, and it couldn't be more timely. Today, our world is facing existential issues. It needs to know how to deal with everything from ever-accelerating climate change to the mental health crisis now gripping young people around the world. Education is often mooted as the solution to these issues, but how are teachers and other experts, other educators dealing with these issues on the front line? What does teaching to take care of oneself, others, and the planet look like in the classroom? And today we're going to be hearing from teachers and experts from all around the world, from rural Kenya to Afghanistan to New York City, talking about how they teach these issues in the classroom. Now, many of these classes are participatory, so you'll be encouraged to join in. So please do feel free to join in where you can, and there will also be time for questions at the end. This is going to be a series of 20-minute masterclasses, around half of which will be devoted to teaching, and then there'll be a bit of time for questions led at the end. So if you do want to raise a question, please do raise your hand or post it in the chat. And we're really looking forward to having you here. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Idris Tabassum, who is the coordinator of the Dais' SDG Lab, Sustainable Development Goal Lab, and academic and vice chancellor at Taj University. So Dr. Tabassum, please, over to you.
Well, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Good. It's a really honorable place and delight. I'm really delighted to be with all the academicians and academic faces around the world, and really thankful from the Varkey Foundation and the Friends of the Dais for coordinating and having the participation of Afghanistan as someone to share the views of what's going on about the SDGs in Afghanistan, how the academicians and the students are engaged with these issues, and what issues are really obstacles and hindering the teachers really regarding the SDGs, that main issues have to be here, I think, negotiated and have to be analyzed and taught, and really thankful for such session that thinking about and bringing different perspectives and sharing ideas around the world. And secondly, really delighted Sir Nicholas from Varkey Foundation, and also other friends and faces, academic faces from other countries. So I'd like to share the slides and the PowerPoint that I've prepared, if possibly. Okay, I see the screen.
We can see the screen.
Yeah, sure. I think what we are discussing about, I think today is all goes back to what the United Nations targeted and what the United Nations thought of the world. So according to the SDG 17, also we have the partnerships. Today we have to hold such sessions, and we have to have the partnerships. So one, I think, university with other university, from one country to other countries, starting from one foundation to other foundations. All these, I think, partnerships will facilitate people around the world to achieve sustainable development goals, and to know what these goals mean and how these goals work and what to do to, I think, receive enough outcomes with these goals. So I think as an academician and as a person that for longs have been teaching, goal number 4 is really focusing on the quality education. If we are really thinking about what quality education means, I think it's the goal that ensures inclusive education, and I think it facilitates the equitable quality education that promotes lifelong learning. So if we are saying that lifelong learning, I think there are different researchers that they believe simply developing and development after formal education means lifelong learning. Well, a traditional definition also says that all learning activity undertaken throughout life with the aim of improving knowledge, skills, and competencies within a personal, civic, social, and employment-related perspectives can be called the lifelong learning. It's not only for today. If a student is thinking that how he's gonna be taught today and what his role is for his future, and what should he do to maintain his academic background for the future, that's simply maybe the meaning of lifelong learning. And there are also some other researchers that they believe the person body, I think genetic, physical, and biological, and mind sets, like, for example, the knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, emotions, beliefs, and senses that is developed in students, and that can assure long life learning for them, is maybe also inclusive, and that would be lifelong learning. So that's number 4 goal, which is really important for academicians, for starting from the primary, going to the secondary and high schools, and also the university teachers will simply be engaged with this goal. And I think as an academician, that when we are teaching students, we should focus that what really missions and roles of the institutions, especially the, I think, higher education roles are in SDG. I think the first thing is the commitment of the institutions in designing and fulfilling relevant policies and plans. Suppose we have accepted the policies and plans of the United Nations in complementing and implementing the SDGs rules, but if we are not committed along with this idea, I think maybe that does not work. So every academic, I think every institute And every teacher should know that there is a commitment behind implementing these SDGs, and that's why they have to develop rules and policies in implementing the programs. Also, the other role is that the institutions around the world, in every part of the world they are working for the education sectors, I think they have to share in SDG labs by inaugurating SDG labs, and they'll have to make the students participate and bring the students participation, and I think to make the students come together and share their ideas and do what the tasks really need. And I think these inaugurating SDG labs will really work, especially in some of the countries that from Afghanistan, for example. I say that many of universities have had I think coordinations and coordinating, and they have also started partnerships with other universities, and they have inaugurated and opened the SDG labs, and they're working on that. So the other mission of these academic I think institutions is to launch sessions that can give awareness for the people, that can motivate students, that can bring different perspectives of students together in the forms of, for example, seminars and talks and forums like these. I think can really bring good outcomes. And the students still in some of the academic institutions, they really don't know what the curriculum says and what are the extracurricular activities and what their participation in the developing of the society is really. That's why, as an academician, I believe that launching awareness sessions and motivational and seminars and talks and in the shape of forums and I think conferences, that can really help. So the other point is that universities or institutions I think open PDCs. I think in this centers, students and teachers come together and discuss different things, and they really share their I think responsibilities, and the students know what their responsibilities are. Students must know how to take care of himself, others, and the planet. These I think strategies have to be run in academic institutions. The collective supports and partnerships is other mission that the universities have to sign MOUs, and they have to come together with other institutions, and they should share, like the University of Touch started working and cooperating with the Dais Foundation and another branch of the Dais Foundation SDG Lab is in Afghanistan, Balkh city, and the coordinating of the Afghanistan branch of the Dais SDG Lab is with the University of Taj. And the other example is the Rana University, is another university in Afghanistan that has had this signing MOU with the Dais Foundation and has already started working with this, and it has really been effective. Collective supports and partnerships was like that, and encouraging students and the other academicians for researches, innovations, and creativity. This is what really I think bolds and highlights the role of a university, and especially the teachers and lecturers and academicians as, I think, the inspirers and motivationists. So in order to have good outcomes in researches And in order to have innovative minds of the students and creativity in the students, we'll have to work on what the extracurricular activities have to be run on the students. And one thing really important that which also belongs to the governments, that's supporting to create and empower civil society. I think in the governments that the civil society is not empowered and is not supported. I think that society is really backward, and that society will not go towards prosperity and sharing ideas and democratic ways and stabilities. So that's why the United Nations has maybe had these goals, and indirectly this is the role and this is the responsibilities of the states and the people that to create civil society. And let me explain what challenges and opportunities can be in front of the SDG labs or sustainable development goals. I think as an academician that in Afghanistan we have the challenges around the world in every country. I think the instability of some of the nations will be broadly affecting the SDGs. Like conflicts between some of the nations, this is something that the nations will, I think, come across with such of the stabilities. And that's why this is one challenge. And competing interests of some of the nations will be another challenge to fulfill the United Nations agenda. Implementing obstacles in some of the nations, the wrong governance in some of the nations, and I think inadequate strategies and inadequate I think policies and rules in some of the nations and countries also will fail the country to fulfill the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. So, but there are some opportunities in front of all these. The social policies, the human resources, and the supports of the community. I think the co-benefits of human being for education, for security, for energy, food, healthcare, all of these are the good opportunities that can bring different nations in particular places to work for fulfilling and for attaining the SDG of the United Nations. Here in Afghanistan, particularly if we talk about what has happened in the universities of Afghanistan, I think the engagement of the students is appreciable in Afghanistan in some of the universities. Some of the universities have inaugurated SDG labs. They have formed partnerships with each other, and that's why they have signed MOUs, and they have launched decisions and seminars and talks that have made the students motivated, and that they have given enough awareness about the SDG. Suppose I think in Afghanistan, the people really didn't know what the SDGs are in some of the universities. But right now, with starting partnerships, with I think launching and holding awareness sessions and general talks, students and teachers have come to know what this is and how to fulfill that. So for doing this, we'll have to create community of youth as the universities in Afghanistan, I think, and around the world are doing the same, training youths to find innovative mind and become leaders and become critical thinkers and become problem solvers. So one of the main aspects of teaching is, I think, to enlighten and I think create opportunities for youths to become innovative, to become critical thinkers, and to become problem solvers. So I have some recommendations for some of the teachers and some of the academicians and also the governments. The first is to believe what sustainable is and how sustainable works. If we don't believe in sustainable change, we'll be, I think, in the place that we were 10, 20, 30, 50, and 100 years ago. So if we believe in what sustainable change is and what sustainable development goals are and what the agenda of the United Nations is, so we can go further and faster. So the second one is that we should be risk takers. If we don't take the risk, and if we don't initiate in some of the risky things that can have good outcomes, we'll not develop. We should start partnerships. We should invite youths for forming big forums and symposiums wherever we are, in what countries we are, in what nations we are, and what our professions are, but we'll have to invite youths for forming big forums and symposium. That will really work for students. This will make the students and encourage the students to think about what extracurricular activities are for them. We should invest on youth's minds and talents. In some of the universities, in some of the academic places, mostly in Afghanistan and in third world countries, researches, innovations, and creativities are not really focused on. So this should be focused. Researches, innovations, and creativity is the other point that I would like to recommend. And the government supports for the civil society is also another one, another recommendation which is really important. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share some memories that Taj University, along with the Dais Foundation and other institutions and organizations, being committed to fulfill the 17th goal of the United Nations. I would like to share some of the pictures that as the memories. This picture says that a collection of youngs have been invited to debate, to share their ideas, and to think about their futures. So what we got from this session and what we got from this gathering, at least we found that students should be, I think, should be taken out of the context of some books. Their responsibilities is not only to read, but their responsibilities are also to win some speeches, to participate and to take share and to understand and analyze and to ask questions and to answer some difficult questions and to be problem solvers. So we knew that these are also the other responsibilities of the youngs, alongside with their responsibility to read books and to read some chapters. This photo shows that Taj University, I think, to fight poverty, went to some asylums and orphan centers, and they shared clothes and foods for some of the, I think, orphans. These two pictures show the sympathy of some of the organizations, that the people of most of the people that they are living in third world country, they are really poor in, I think they need clothes and they need food. That's why. So one of the responsibilities of us as a human, if we are teachers, if we are professionalists, if we are doctors, if we are anyone, so thinking about the humanity, we should share our food with some of the people that they still don't have food. And this photo is also show that this photo shows that we'll have to share things with poor people also, and this is related with the picture before. And this is another picture that that shows the gathering of the youths of Afghanistan. I think 2 years ago, Taj University invited the representative of Afghan youths in the United Nations. When he was going to the United Nations, talking as the representative of the youths of Afghanistan, he came to the universities, and we invited him, and we collected a group of people, a group of youngs, a group of I think teenagers, and we discussed different difficulties of the earth. We discussed the political issues, we discussed economical issues, we discussed educational issues, and these things really work, and it was useful for them that they were taken out of the context of education books and chapters, and they knew what their responsibilities as youths are. And I think as a last word I would like to share with all of you is, if I'm from Afghanistan and someone else is from the Nigeria, and someone else is from Iraq, and someone else is from India, someone else is from the UK, what we share with each other is the humanity. What things, what really, what idea that brings us together is the humanity. And every religion, primarily, that consists of some of the principles that really focus on the humanity. Thank you, really, and from your patient, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tabassum. That was a fascinating and inspirational presentation, and very grateful to you for making the time. I am conscious of time. We have 7 speakers booked, and I know that some of them have very, very tight windows in which to speak. So if you'll forgive me, I'm going to move on so we keep to our allocated slots. And I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Steve Ritz, who is the founder of the Green Bronx Machine, who is going to give, I hear, something like 900 slides in 10 minutes. So Steve, over to you. Steve, you're on mute.
Okay, here we go. Share screen. Share. Can you hear me now? Oh, geez, I just lost everything.
We can hear you. We can see the screen.
Okay, bear with me 1 second. Here we go. I'm opening up. Hopefully you can see me in a matter of, can you see me at least?
I can see you. I can hear you.
My presentation is frozen. To go figure. Here we go. Spinning, spinning, spinning. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to try this one more time. I apologize. Technology can sometimes be difficult for us. It's not open at all. No, it's there. Hold on. Nicholas, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What I'm going to do is log out and log back in. Bear with me 2
All right.
minutes. Maybe answer some questions.
Yeah.
Or if you want, go to the next presenter and I'll be ready then. I don't know what happened here.
Let's let Dr. Tabassum answer a couple of questions because he didn't get an opportunity. So we had one from Ada in the chat saying, do you recommend communication and raising awareness in all 17 Sustainable Development Goals? Or is it better to pick one or two and develop these projects and specific goals? So for example, SDG 4. Dr. Tabassum, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Okay. I wonder whether it makes sense if we flipped, for timing's sake, Steve's and Brianna's presentations around. I see we have Brianna online. Brianna, can you hear me?
Please flip it. Please flip it.
Okay. Let's, Brianna, are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me and see me okay?
I can hear you and see you well.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, let me just introduce you. Firstly, thank you so much for stepping up. Brianna is the Vice Principal at Bruce Peninsula District School of Ontario, Canada, and she's also a finalist for the Global Teacher Prize. So Brianna, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, I just need to share my screen. Sorry, 1 second. I said I was really ready, but it's like you're taking me for a second here.
This is like a teacher spot quiz.
This is what happens in the classroom, isn't it?
Everyone suddenly looks up from their notes.
Oh. Oh, I'm having the same problem as Steve. It might make me quit and reopen. Let's see.
Okay. Thanks everyone for your patience. I know many of us have sat through lots of Zoom meetings over the last couple of years, and we've all of us have run into problems sharing screens and things. I still have absolutely no idea how to do it, but I know I'm in the minority on that. But thank you for sticking with us. We have some really, really cool presentations. Let's see if Brianna can get it working.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be good now. Let's see. Share screen. Share.
Looking good.
Looking good. Can you see that?
You can see it. Great.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. I will get started. So I'm Brianna, and I always like to introduce myself first and foremost as an educator. I am a vice principal at Bruce Peninsula District School in Ontario, Canada. I'm also a National Geographic certified educator and Global Teacher Prize top 10 finalist and founder of the Changemaker Classroom, which I'm going to talk about today. So just to give you a sense of where in the world I am, there I am on that little peninsula there in a little town called Lions Head, Ontario, and right there in Canada. A few things about the school, just to kind of give it some context, is it's a K-12 school. So we have kindergarten to grade 12 students. It's a UNESCO school. We're also what in Ontario we call an eco school. So we do certain environmental initiatives throughout the year to make the school more environmental. We're located in a UNESCO World Biosphere. We're located really close to the Bruce Peninsula National Park. If you Google it, it's beautiful. And we're really also close to something called the Niagara Escarpment and the Bruce Trail. So we're very much situated in what I call a biodiversity hotspot, and a little bit of just a natural gem. So I'm going to talk about just kind of the base philosophy of my teaching. And that's the first thing is the world is your classroom. So I really believe that we have to get kids out of the class every chance we get. And I never want those four walls to be my classroom. So these are just a few photos of over the past years taking my students out, and actually all the photos here are local. So you can kind of see where we live. We're located really close to escarpment. We've got trails, we've got forests. So we have a really beautiful, we're really situated in a beautiful area where it's easy within 5 minutes to half an hour, there's different places we can go. So we take a lot of field trips, and I really want the kids to connect with their local environment, because I believe that's where it starts, is falling in love with where you live and protecting what you love. So I want them to fall in love with where we are. The second part of that is that the class is a microcosm of the world. So we are in a very small, rural, remote community, and the students are not always connected to the world. And so I really believe like that is my mandate, to make sure that if it's happening in the world, then it's being reflected in my classroom. So they're learning about it. So again, just a few photos over the past years of a few different things. This isn't showing a great glimpse of it, but lots of maps, always talking about current events. I've been talking about the UN Global Goals with my students since 2015. Anything we're reading, anything we're watching is reflecting what's going on in the world. One of the books I love to read with my students is Chelsea Clinton, It's Your World, and it basically takes them through how to take action. So it talks about different things going on in the world, and then helps them kind of develop an action plan. So that's a book that I have used with my students. And so in 2015, I had used the Millennium Development Goals before. And in 2015, when the UN Global Goals came out, I knew I wanted to take, I was teaching grade 7-8 at the time, and I wanted to take the grade 7-8 curriculum and basically connect it to the UN Global Goals in every way that I could. So that's how it started. So we started talking about the UN Global Goals and all throughout the year. And we got to the end of the year, we did a Think Global, Act Local project. So I asked the students, choose one global goal that you feel passionate about. After learning about all of them, which one do you really connect to? And I want you to come up with a local project to do something about that global goal. So this is where kind of the spark was for me, because the students latched onto it and did an amazing job. And like, you have those moments in the classroom when you're like, I am exactly where I need to be. And this was it for me, where I just knew that this was absolutely going to be something that I carried through my teaching. So this kind of, again, just shows one little snapshot. A couple of the students in my class, they chose gender equality. They did a walk for women. They did it over a weekend in the community. We had community members come out. They raised money for Girls Not Brides. And it was really incredible. That was just one of the projects. So they really understood they understood the assignment of latching onto that UN Global Goal and doing something about it locally and realizing they could make change locally. We put together a little newspaper that we distributed with all the projects. And of course, we also made like a manifesto in our class about being a global citizen, a change maker. And that really guided us for the year. So that's where that started. That was in 2015, 2016. Over the past few years, this kind of continued to grow. Other teachers asked me what I was doing, how I was doing it. And so this is where the Changemaker Classroom came to be. I thought I can take what I'm doing and I can share it out more easily because I can also replicate what I'm doing. And so it kind of came down to the best way to organize it was focus on one global goal each month. And this is what I found worked the best for me. And then in that month, when we're learning about that, like the UN Global Goal, again, everything we're talking about learning about is somehow connecting to that UN Global Goal. So it's very intentional. You have to look at your curriculum and figure out where can I make these ties, but you can do it. And then rather than doing the one big project at the end of the year, which we still did, We also did smaller challenges each month to work towards that UN Global goal. So it kind of started to give the students ideas of things they could be doing. So this is just one example. In December, the UN Global Goal was responsible consumption and production. I have just put the link to my website there, changemakerclassrooms.ca. So you can check it out. You can also join if you would like. And this is basically the premise, is that each month students complete challenges. At the beginning of each month, you get an email from the Changemaker Classroom, which tells you like, hey, the next challenge is open. And when you go to the link, there is, maybe I'll just show you really quickly, Changemaker Classroom. So we can just go to January. And so when you go to the link, there's different resources about it, teaching ideas. I usually put in a few videos, different resources, and then you have the challenges. And this is shared at the beginning of every month. So really what I'm trying to do is give everyone a starting place and make it accessible to everyone to teach the UN Global Goals. And so this shows you this year what the challenges are each month. So February is gender equality. So next week, I'll be sending out the gender equality challenges. And then I always make a poster that you can put up in your classrooms that have the challenges, and so the students can actually see it. I think it's really important that it's visible in the classroom, so the students see the challenges, they know what the UN Global Goal is for the month. And I would have students come into my class at the beginning of the month, and they say, what's the challenge this month? And so it's really exciting, and they know that everything we're gonna be doing that month is tied to that challenge. I'll share the link to the Prezi, because I'm gonna skip by a couple of videos. And so, yeah, so I think I stayed very well within my time limit because I want to be very conscious of the time. But you're welcome to follow me on Twitter. I also have the Changemaker Classroom Twitter there, the website. And if you want to join the challenge and get February's challenges, I made it easy there with the QR code as well.
Thank you so much, Brianna. That was absolutely fantastic and really inspirational, and such a practical example of how you can deliver sustainable development projects in the classroom. We have a couple of minutes. Are there any questions for Brianna? Please do raise your hand now if you have one, and I'll come to you.
I see some lovely comments in the chat. Thank you, everyone.
I had one question. So you if I understand well, you gave your students an opportunity to pick any sustainable development goal. Is that right?
That
was
is
there
right.
one that they flocked to? Was it climate change, or was it what was the most popular sustainable?
Yeah, there's always a few that do that the kids do. I often find move towards, and I often reflect on. I'm like, are those the ones that I'm focusing on more? And probably the answer is yes. And that's why I kind of changed the model to focusing on one each month, so I can make sure that also as a teacher, I'm looking at different ones. But I find gender equality, kids love gender equality, climate action, and zero hunger. I find are some of the hot ones with my students usually.
That's really interesting, and very, very sort of topical, and exactly what I guess you would expect. That's really cool. We have a question, I think, from is it Ada?
Yes, that's me. Hello, can you see me?
I can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much for that presentation, Brianna. My question is related to the experience I've had with Romanian children. Mm-hmm. Mainly the fact that when we talk to them about the SDGs, they perceive these goals as something very abstract, something, like the agenda of some bureaucracy they feel completely disconnected from. How did you manage to translate these goals to something they can relate to, something that's more down to earth? Did you have a lot of work to do with that or not?
Yeah, it for sure is a lot of work. And kind of, as I mentioned, like we do live in a really rural community where we can't see all of these goals necessarily. Like you really do have to look for it. But I really try for them to see, like in our community, we still have hunger. We still have poverty. We have gender inequality. And we can also talk about climate change as well, because we can talk about that everywhere. So I find like that's kind of the key, is making sure, and that's why I say that the world is your classroom, because it's taking the kids out of the class to see these things, right? Like this as not, it's not very exciting, but if you want to take the kids to you know, the local garbage disposal, right? Like these are things we can go see in our local community for them to understand that the goals, I want them to understand, we talk a lot about the goals around the world, because I want them to understand how these issues are reflected around the world as well. But it's really important for them to also see it here, because you're right, that's how they tap into it and really care, when they see like, oh, this is something happening in my community where I live, where I might live for the rest of my life. And so that's why I care. So yeah, you've tapped into something really, really key there. They have to see it themselves and feel like it's a local issue.
It's a great method. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Brianna. That was a really, really fantastic presentation. Let's go back to Steve. Second time's the charm. And let's see how we do. Steve, over to you.
Hopefully, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, let's try the share screen, and away we go. So, good morning, everybody. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, if you can dream it, you can do it. And our goal is to create a better world. So long ago in a galaxy far, far away, and that is actually a field of lettuce grown with students in a greenhouse, we are the people who go from Canton Wolt to Mustin Done daily. And we do it with a smile. I'm the guy who goes from this to this, growing food with children with all kinds of technology all around the world. And literally, these are some of the farms and projects that I do with children, because we are all foodies, farmers, and solutionaries. We are passionate people, community leaders that nourish the world. We are not nerds. No, we are not. We are superheroes. And while other people talk, we make epic happen. This is a building very close to my school with a greenhouse on top. That's the overview. You'll see our school in the background. That is my wife, my daughter, and I. And literally, we grow thousands and thousands of plants and supporting our community. We lift, full, engineer. And again, if you can dream it, you can do it. I'm very much here to say to each and every one of you, teachers change lives each and every day. Oh, now my presentation is stuck. Look at that. Unbelievable. Oh boy, I'm having a hard time. This is just not my day today. So we're here to save the world. So live from the Bronx, I come to you, home of the cheese hat. A little bit about my community. This is an aerial shot of my community in the poorest congressional district in America. 45 buildings that look like this within 8 square blocks. 18, no supermarkets, no stores. We are both economically and geographically isolated, and I'm not willing to accept the things I can't change. I change what I can't accept, and for me, it starts with seeds. So remarkably, with my students, our superpower is we grow food. Let me give you a short video. This is our skyline. These are our shops, our supermarkets, our windows, our doors, our homes, and our yards in the poorest congressional district in America. This is our soil. Here, we are growing something greater for children who love to learn, to make, to nurture, and to taste. This is Green Bronx Machine. Literally right here in this very classroom, I grow food with children 365 days a year indoors, using 90% less water, 90% less space, in a community that has no food now grows its own. And everything that we do is embedded into the whole school curriculum. At the heart of our work is our Green Bronx Machine classroom curriculum. It's hundreds of pages aligned to science, math, social studies, language arts, everything you need to grow something greater. And of course, we do it with growing a garden right in the middle of school. Literally, we've taken attendance from 40% to 93%. Oops, my computer is slowing down again. Let it catch up. And then gone on to 100% graduation rates. Along the way, we've seen a 45% increase in passing rates on state tests. We've even made the copy of Time for Kids. But most importantly, our school in 4 years went from waiting to be closed to proficient and well-developed in all areas. 150,000 pounds of vegetables later. My favorite crop is organically grown citizens and graduates of the middle class. My students and I have taken over buildings across the Bronx and converted them from this to this. And literally, for me, every child needs to know where their food comes from, whether you live in the city or the country. And when you teach kids to grow food, they eat it. We have intergenerational farmers markets that are intergenerational, interracial, and intercultural, teaching children to grow food, sell food, and because when you grow food, you grow justice. And make no doubt about it, food justice is racial justice. We take over lots in our community that go from this to this, and from a movement to a market that builds value for all, or what we like to say is a si se puede moment. Because if you can dream it, you can do it. Because for us, business as usual is no longer an option. In the United States and around the world, people are eating themselves to death. And my students and I are finding that if we create a market, people come and buy our food. And we're looking at all sorts of innovative technology, taking over abandoned buildings with good infrastructure and turning them into farms, creating opportunity for all. So I have a lot of energy. I hope you plug in because my model is simple: cultivate, propagate, replicate. I want to show you 5 days in the life of a seed. Every science teacher knows that. I'll show you 5 days in the life of my students. We show up, we grow, and 25 days later, we're Bronx proud and farming, and you know it. We've gone from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, and from this to this. This is the work that we love to do, transforming not only our community, but communities all around the world. That's simply put the work that we do. It all starts with teachers like each and every one of us. It starts with seeds and plants, and it starts in classrooms with growing something greater. We've taken over abandoned big box retail and literally taken the infrastructure with the very graduates of this program and created living wage jobs that grow food, do indoor ag that is both net zero on energy and water by collecting rainwater, and grow custom crops for celebrity chefs, literally creating infrastructure and jobs that go 0 miles to plate. Closer to home, we built the first wheelchair accessible farm for handicapped students. And in the middle of the mountains, we've even built greenhouses that enable foster care youth to grow food in coal country 365 days a year. So it has really been remarkable. And 2,200 jobs later, my students are dreamers, believers, and achievers in every sense of the world. We have gone from disruption to delivery. For me, it is just easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men. And I believe food is the most important school supply in the world because children will never be well read if they are not well fed. So teachers change lives. And today I salute each and every one of you. Even before COVID, I had this big idea that literally we could convert our curriculum to multiple languages around the world, which we have done. And literally through the power of the internet, much like today and the nutty cheese hat, we have connected students around the world to grow something greater. These are strawberries grown in my room in the middle of winter, in the middle of the Bronx. In the Gulf, we've created farms and done all kinds of amazing things. Closer to home in the Bronx, we pulled up cement and composted to grow farms right here in the Bronx and create opportunities for our children closer to home. I like to say this is a bed that we can all lay in. And then COVID happened. And let me be clear to anybody who has lost someone or is feeling the pain, I hear you and I feel for you. So have we. To give you some context, in this very building, in our immediate community, my wife and I have lost over 24 friends, family, and colleagues right where we work. And as you know, New York City, and in particular the Bronx, is the hottest spot. Those buildings are the death towers. You are twice as likely to die here than anywhere else. And things are a bit crazy. The garbage has stopped being picked up. Parks are closed. Streets are barricaded. There is no food. And it was right then and there, in the middle of the pandemic, that my wife and I realized that there was food being grown. It just wasn't being sold. So, oh my gosh, what happened now? Where'd it go? I just lost it yet again, my presentation. Are you guys still there?
We're here. I think.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm really struggling here today with technology. Hold on, let me see if I can open this up one more time and catch up. And if not, I'll just gracefully bow out, mindful of everybody else's time. But whew, I'm sorry about that.
No, I think we all need a moment to process just the amount of incredible work that you're doing. And
you haven't seen anything yet.
I'm feeling very underpowered. I was very proud of when I grew something in my little garden, and now I'm feeling very, very inadequate. Let's see if we can get the presentation working. I'd love to finish it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really kind of, I mean, I know I had about 6 minutes left and I was right on schedule, and then the thing died. Should I log out and come back again?
Yeah, how long will that take? A couple of minutes?
It'll take me under a minute.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'll be back. Oh wait, you're there. Hold on. Let me see if I can bring it up. I'm going to try one more time, see if this thing opens up. All right, I'm going to log out and come back.
Okay, see you soon. Everyone, thank you so much for bearing with us. I hope you'll agree that it's worth trying to finish this presentation. We're still within time, and I think, as I'm seeing from the comments, everyone is just blown away by what's happening. And if we can't get the presentation working, at least I hope we can get a few questions from Steve. Our foundation had the opportunity to visit him at his school a couple of years ago before COVID, and I think all of us were just absolutely bowled over by what he's doing, and also his passion. And that's something that marks out all of the teachers within our foundation's network, including Brianna and Steve, is just their passion to do more for their students, their ability to do more than what the job is demanding of them. And I think we've seen this morning, just two incredible examples of that from around the world. So hoping Steve will be able to log back in and get it working again. If not, we've still got a whole group of incredible presenters lined up over the next hour or so. So please don't go anywhere. And let's all take a moment to process that incredible presentation. Let's give Steve a minute or so more, I'm sure. I'm seeing a lot of love in the chat. Thank you so much, and thanks for bearing with us. Part of the real joy of the job that I do at the Varkey Foundation is getting to do stuff like this, where I get to hear from just absolutely incredible teachers from around the world who are doing, incredible work. And a lot of it is linked, like today, to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think we're seeing, from all three of our presenters this morning, just the practical ways in which you can link these very abstract international global goals to what's happening in the classroom. That's a great question. Ada's asking, how do you get funded? If he's able to rejoin, I'm hoping that's something we'll be able to put to him. If there are any other questions, please do pop them in the chat here. Okay, I'm going to give it maybe one more minute, and then I think it may be better to move on, simply because I'm conscious of time. Let me just drop Steve a quick message and see if he's able to rejoin.
I'm back if you can hear me.
Yeah, fantastic. Welcome back. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. So here we go. And so I believe I was share screen right here. So I'm sharing screen now, correct? Can you guys see me?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see the presentation. Perfect. So literally, my wife and I, we converted our school into a supermarket. The basement of our school was closed, and started turning our school into a supermarket, buying food for pennies on a dollar that was being produced, and started a local delivery service and literally put groceries outside the school each and every day. We built pop-up food stands across New York City and made sure that we got out to kids in the community, even putting vegetables in the middle of the street so that people would have access to food. We turned our schoolyard into a supermarket and sent home children with backpacks of food and school supplies, and literally we're growing something greater. We even set up a wheelchair delivery service. As spring came, the children and I grew hundreds and then thousands of seedlings, which we delivered everywhere, and literally then got the children who were sequestered all winter in these buildings out to the farm so they could get some fresh air for community service. Literally, I'm growing something greater. We created interfaith days of service around New York City and grew beautiful children and happy flowers and tons of food. We then realized that, we live in an internet desert, that we could solar cap our farms and put solar panels and turn our gardens into local Starbucks. As it became fall and winter, we took the seedlings and moved indoors and literally created subterranean farms in a day that we were able to build indoors using 90% less water, 90% less space, and taking over indoor space. And literally 90 days later, it was raining tomatoes in all of these buildings. Like so many of you, I turned my apartment, my home, into a classroom. And literally, I started getting kids online. I brought my garden, my puppets, my books right home with me. But the one thing that we did different is we brought a chef into my home. And with the groceries that we delivered before, we started teaching children how to eat healthy, how to create online. We started with 10, we went to 100, 100 became 1,000. And before you know it, we had thousands of people online cooking with us. And then we went right back to our classroom. We were hoping schools would reopen, but they did not. So collectively, using this online platform, we got all the children involved with their animals and created an amazing TV show that literally was done with students online. It had teaching lessons. For those of you who want, all of this is available at the Green Bronx Machine website with learning materials, classroom drawings.
Welcome to my class, students.
Hi, Mr. Ritz. Hello, Mr. Ritz.
Ahoy, Mr. Ritz.
Hi, Mr. Ritz.
Hi, Mr. Met. Jason Latimer, the world champion of magic. I wonder, what is a seed? Are there any dinosaurs living today? Why doesn't the big blue whale have any gills? What are those two moose doing? I have so many more questions. Let's go!
So I'm going to keep moving, but the
Whoa.
bottom line is the show had 2 million views. For those of you who want to watch it, you can see the show right here. And then, sadly, George Floyd happened. And this is a moment for all of us to really reflect upon, because let this horrible moment become the cause to a movement so that we all realize around the world that Black Lives Matter, and to see what is right and not do it is a lack of courage. So we were proud to paint the streets here in the Bronx Black Lives Matter. And my goal is for everybody to fight racism, whether it's cultural, economic, or environmental. And, you know, the beauty of a plant is that plants work for everybody. So rather than seeking the light at the end of the tunnel, I urge all of my teachers and your fellow colleagues to use your classroom as the light inside of the tunnel. And that's what this classroom here in the South Bronx is. And literally, this was the amount of food that we distributed, not some days, but each and every day to grow something greater. So a little bit about what we accomplished in 2021. I'll let you read that and move on. But compassion is the new curriculum. Diversity is a fact. Equity is a choice. Inclusion is an action, and belonging is an outcome. And we like to say Green Bronx Machine is for life. And that's why I'm proud to champion education, not asphyxiation, to breathe life into everything that we do. And to think that my students and I, this is not Photoshop. This is 24 days where literally money is growing, because I've met children who are allergic to vegetables, but never allergic to money. And in a community that was once barely surviving, we are striving to grow something greater and grow food that we sell, eat, and use in the community. We're not working harder, we are working smarter. And to think that the children and I have created a recipe for success means we are ordinary people living extraordinary lives. It's our collective job to steward children to a better, brighter future, and look at the joy that they feel. That's the work that collectively we all do, because doing your best in this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. And teachers, our rising tide lifts all boats. So for me, it's about growing the perfect head of lettuce. You design, you build, you transform, because social sustainability and living wage is at the heart of innovation. So together we can all prosper. To think my students and I have technology that is net positive on food and energy and has attracted the likes of President Clinton, and through the Varkey Foundation, I was able to meet him, is awesome sauce. I was honored to be named a top 10 finalist, but my story is from impossible to I'm possible, because 10 years ago, I was 300 pounds. And literally by growing food and eating it with my students, I became a champion of change, bringing my students to the White House, getting to meet the president, being invited and cited by the president to put our technology both inside and outside the White House. And then, you know, to build him a Lego statue and meet Miss Obama was awesome sauce. Or as we say, the past doesn't equal the future. For those of you who know, this is the South Bronx of my youth. This is where I grew up and how I grew up. And for me, it's nothing more than a memory, because together we can grow something greater. And literally by working with children, the mission has taken me all around the world, including to Dubai, where in just 5 years working with local people, we were able to build the first sustainable city, net positive on energy, and literally 3 degrees cooler than anywhere else in the region. We grow over 1 million plants a month using the very technology we have here in the classroom. And we opened, you know, the first net positive energy school, which is a top 20 school in the world. So for everybody, it's about defining and setting goals, learning from mistakes, keeping motivated, and staying the course. I like to say our children are our little princes and princesses. And this is a video that was filmed in my classroom right here by a 4th grader with a cell phone. Children how quickly and how beautifully we can grow food or in school, sell, and sustain the world. And the beauty of this is that in my classroom, car each and every day, wearing hats and a bow tie, and with all we do, I hope to grow something greater and make epic happen. And that's a little bit about our story. And of course, taking your princes and princesses with a cheese hat and a bow tie too. because no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to be great. You know, just like all of you, I fight for my community, and the changes that we have been able to make are remarkable, because every person on this planet deserves an equal seat at the table. And in a world where the big fish eat the little fish, I want the little fish to outswim the big fish. I believe there is good in the world. I know you are the good in the world. We start with truth, we go to good, we keep it just well in order, keep it beautiful, sustainable, and that's how we change the world. So think boundlessly, work purposefully, live passionately, because everyone has the power for greatness, not for fame, but for greatness, because greatness is determined by service. So there are those who ask why. I say, why not? And what will you do to make epic happen? I fight for children all around the world. And the beauty is that together we can grow something greater. Every day I plant seeds. We plant a rainbow and we get to have it. So we will teach them to fly, but they will not fly our flight. We will teach them to dream, but they will not live our dream. You will teach them to live, but they will not live your life. But in every flight, in every life, in every dream, the print of the way we teach will always remain. So knowing is not enough. Doing is what must be done. And teachers change lives. If you can dream it, you can do it. Communities are not born, they are made, and everything we do is for our community. How we walk with the wounded speaks louder than how we sit with the great. So do something today that you and your future self will thank you for. The past does not equal the present. Never give up. My name is Steve Ritz. I got passion for my plants and I'm not afraid to show it. I'm farming in New York City and I'm not afraid to grow it. Teachers change lives. You can check it out in our book. You can watch our TV show, and thank you so much. This is how you can get in touch with me. Thanks kindly.
Steve, thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible. I think everybody loved it. And it's just amazing to see someone who is really living and breathing sustainable development and making it happen on the ground. I know I'm conscious of your time because I think you have.
I have about 5 minutes I can stay, and then I've got to bounce. If anyone has some quick questions, but
yeah,
I'm delighted to be of service to each and every one of you in any way possible.
I saw a couple questions in the chat. I'm just going to throw them at you quickly. So question one was, how do you get funded? And then there was another question saying, what's the name of the community in Dubai that you've transformed? Someone said, how do you get to be so awesome? Leave it to you to answer that. And
so how did I get to be so awesome? That's easy. I married up. I have a wonderful wife. So, you know, my advice is marry above your pay grade. That's number one. You know, I'm just blessed. And there has honestly been a lot of pain and tragedy in both my life and my wife's life. But I believe, you know, you can take trauma and turn it into transformation. You can take pain and turn it into passion. And that's what this work for me is all about. How did I fund this? Literally, I funded it myself. I literally started with one classroom at a time. And when the children and community saw that I was spending my money, they got on board with me. I don't take a salary for my organization at all. I'm a full-time volunteer. The name of the community that I help build out is called the Sustainable City in Dubai. It is known as the world's happiest city. The school where I am faculty at there, and I do my work remotely and in person. Prior to COVID, I'll be back in Dubai next month, is called Fairgreen International School. And, you know, the bottom line is, you know, it all starts with a seed. I have no agricultural background, no science background. I've been asked to both work and graduate elsewhere. And I'll leave it at that, figure out what that means. But, you know, anyone who has passion and purpose can turn that into impact. And that's what this work is about. And join us, share the TV show with your children. They love it. And I'm happy to connect with any school anywhere and do episodes remotely.
Thanks so much. Check out Steve's resources. They're all on his website. You can see it, I think, in the chat or online. And thank you so much for your time. Have a fantastic afternoon. Good luck with you.
No, thank you. I'm going to try and stick around sideways to hear some of my other colleagues. Sean, good to see you. I see you out there. I hope I was a good shot of espresso inside your herbal tea.
Thank you so much, Steve. I agree with you in marrying up as well. That's definitely the secret to success. I am delighted to introduce our next speaker, Rupa Chakravarti, who is an advisor to the Dais, which is an organization also hosting today's workshop. It works on promoting the Sustainable Development Goals around the world. And Dr. Chakravarti is also the Director of Education at Sun City Schools in Gurugram, India. So, Dr. Chakravarti, please, over to you.
Hi, am I visible?
I can hear you. I can't see you just yet.
Okay. All right. I'll just get this going again. Can you see me?
Hi, I can see you now. Welcome.
Okay. Wonderful. Phew. What energy. What a presentation. Well, all I can say that I'm going to be the dampener when I speak after Stephen, and nobody can match that, you know. So please pardon me, everybody. And Nicholas, you'll have to add a few good words after I finish saying Rupa was the best and she spoke so well, and, you know, so that I feel, oh, yes, of course, I spoke very well. Stephen, wow. Wow, absolutely mind-boggling. And what work, what a body of work. You know, the children keep using this word, my bad. And now I understand my bad, that I've got to speak after you. But I guess it has to be done. So here I go. Is the screen visible?
I can't see your shared screen. I can see you on the gallery.
May I just ask Jasmine to kind of help out, or Parisha?
Sure, Mrs. Rupa, I'll just share my screen.
Because mine is not showing, so I guess. Stephen, do tell us how you made that cheese headgear or hat, because that was amazing. All right, here we go. I am here in Gurgaon, and you will be able to see us here in that little map. We are, of course, doing things that everybody is doing, but everybody does it with a little bit of difference, I guess. The next slide, please. So what is the aim of education? What do you all think is the aim of education? I believe it's preparing for the real world. And it was today on BBC World that they were talking about am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So today on BBC World, they were talking about how from 1950, the plastic production has increased 50% or 50-fold. And that's 79% increase in plastic products, pharmaceuticals, and fertilizers. This program is called Climate Critical. And we all know that this is not something that has been put there without a thought. And we are responsible for it. We are living in a VUCA world. And it is very, very important for us to remember that this VUCA world is actually telling us what we've done wrong. Next, please. This is the video of the storm that happened here in India. And Pauline knows it because she's from Kolkata. She's now stationed in Kolkata. This is volatile. What we've done to the earth is what the earth is paying us back for, having plundered it thus. We just had Anna in Madagascar and Mozambique, and this happened in Kolkata. Next, please. So the vision is, the focus is on change. Next, please. So we need to modify our thinking and make sure that we start working on things which ensure that we look at the perseverance, the grit, and the resilience, and challenge our limits to make sure that we have a new center of gravity. Next one, please. And then we have this. Who doesn't know this beautiful looking but devastating crowned virus, the corona? Next, please. And this is the uncertainty that we are embracing, the change that has come, and we need to understand what we have done around us for us to have this kind of outcomes. Next, please. We need to strategize, acknowledge our emotions, feel the situation, and think about it. And we need to go through this gamut of emotions of feel, think, and act. And for that, we require to introspect, reflect, and expedite all the actions that we think of. And Stephen has been such a good example. We cannot even wait for another example, because I'm lucky that Stephen spoke ahead of me. He preceded me. Next, please. The complexity. And of course, that particular video which didn't show was about how we had gone through the nuclear bombing, and that resulted in complexity, whether it was a political drive or whatever it was. It was about Japan and the US going through the complexity of bombing. But this complexity also gives us the clarity and tenacity of knowing what should be done in the future, because we have to be clear what the future should look like. Next, please. So face the reality gap and be prepared for surprises, because tomorrow is another day, like it was said in the famous book. And the keywords here are predict, create, and prepare. The next one, please. This is a poignant picture of one of the laborers in India who walked thousands of kilometers in 2020 because they had no job and no food. Stephen, I think you should bring your project to India, because there are many hungry mouths to feed over here. And this is the ambiguity that we live with. Do we work or do we go back home? Next, please. And that is the adaptability and the alacrity. One of the saddest and most touching pictures was of a woman holding the hand of her child and walking the 1,000-mile back to her hometown in Bihar or in Jharkhand. It was heartrending. So they taught us adaptability and alacrity. Next, please. And to accept the challenges. This is the toughest, but remember, tough times do not last, tough people do. A cliched axiom, but we must remember, we have to practice goal setting, keep plan B ready. And the keywords are acceptance, empathy, and mindfulness. Next, please. All right. So now, we need to understand that we have to be able to do things which are changing. Can I be just given a moment to move to another platform, please? Sharing this, and I'll just move to another platform. Just stop sharing this, please.
Okay. Everyone, thanks again for your patience with this, and it's a really interesting presentation and lots to pick up from that. And I'm interested to hear about how, you know, if the idea is kids need to learn about resilience and change, how we teach that, what are the practical strategies to doing that. So lots to pick up on from this and from the other presentations, and hoping we can pick it up. If you do have questions, I'll give 5 minutes or so at the end, so please do put them in the chat, and we'll try and put them to Dr. Chakravarti at the end. All right, let's give it another minute or so. Thank you, everyone. Conferences and events which have talked about the SDGs, it's always interesting to find projects which are trying to practically teach them or to make them work at a local level, because they're so abstract and they're so global in scope and ambition. And when you speak to policymakers or to academics, often what you get is a very broad vision, you know, sort of not seeing the wood for the trees. And so it's always lovely to hear from educators and experts who are trying to make it work within communities. And that's something that I'm really enjoying from this session today. And it's a wonderful opportunity to connect with all of you about it. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for staying engaged. I know all of us over the last couple of years have had lots of these kind of Zoom calls, but we've had some really, really interesting testimonies today. And how often do you get to go on a call and hear from wonderful people from around the world, you know, from Afghanistan to New York to Canada, and now from India. So let's give it a minute or so more. And Jasmine, I am conscious of time. I don't want to cut off Dr. Chakravarti, but we may need to move on if we don't get it back up and running in a minute or so, with apologies. Okay. Rupa, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
Okay,
I can hear
you're
you.
back. Great.
Can you see the screen?
We can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So sorry about this, and I really am apologetic about this technical snag. So this is where we are coming from in the VUCA world. It was a few years back that we decided, seeing these beautiful flowers, that we need to go up to the Himalayas. And that is when we saw this beautiful view, and we made a house up there in the hills. But that was just a beginning. Can you see the beautiful Himalayas and how it kind of enchanted us? But what we didn't know before we went there was that the Himalayas were reducing by 10 inches till 2015. And since then, it's reducing by 20 inches. That needs to be something which we need to think about. And this is what happened in 2021. A huge chunk of the Himalayas that broke down, and the avalanche which came ruined everything in the valley. So we need to understand that there is a tremendous rise in the natural disaster that's happening around us. There are hydrological, meteorological, climatological, and geophysical changes which are happening, and you can see how it's increasing, because we have it till 2019 and how it is increasing. And that is, of course, like Idris spoke, the quality education needs to come in. And we need to ensure that inclusive and equitable quality education happens for lifelong learning. We need to remember that we have not inherited the earth from our ancestors, but we've borrowed it from our children. A very, very oft repeated statement, but something that we need to understand and remember. This requires clear goals and skills to translate these goals into sound curriculum and pedagogy. And that's what we do in our school. Barack Obama said that no challenge poses a greater threat to future generations than climate change. And that's SDG 13, we all know that. These are painful scenes that we see. Lack of food, so hunger and climate change. This particular photograph of the polar bear is something that has really, really caught all our attention. So we need to make this deal, this contract with each other. And this is a global problem, not a problem in either India or in US or Kenya or Afghanistan. It's a problem we all are facing. And sustainable development is more than a goal. It is our responsibility to the planet and future generation. So what can we do? We can come together and make multilateral force of change and configure and contribute to the change agenda, the action agenda by the industry. Ford has announced that by 2030 it's going to make only electric cars. And I think this is a conscious and a very responsible decision we all need to take, to move to solar panels, to ensure we are using EVs and many other things that we need to do. And the action agenda by the government, for example, focus on sustainable public transport. And for that, teachers like us involve students and youngsters to advocate change. And what do we do? And this is a question, I'm glad the lady from Romania, she asked this. We have these books. So you can see that this is a little need or want lesson. And the lesson, the worksheet is on no poverty. And we have it right from nursery onwards. It is embedded in our syllabus. So when we give it to the students and to the parents, the syllabus itself contains it, the books contain it. And we have these embedded, the SDGs embedded in the books. And we call it task because we go out for a lot of projects. And task stands for trips, application, skill, and knowledge. We believe to enhance the students' curiosity, the epistemic curiosity that they have. they need to be taught and introduced to these things at a very young age. But we do it in this manner so that we don't kind of intimidate them with big words. We just ensure that they are doing this through the books that they have. So who has seen The Wind? Again, is another way of doing it. I'm rushing it a bit because I know I have been logged out and there was a problem. So I'll just finish with this. And I want to tell you on 21st of January, we do the revision in a very, very different way in our school. So we have students who are, become the teachers, and the parents sit in the class as students. That's how we do our revision. And can I ask Parisha, can you just share how on 21st of January, class 3 did what we call the parents walk-in, and we were inundated with the feedback that you can see. So what I'm trying to say is that how do we teach the children, and how we kind of teach it through multiple pronged platforms so that the children do not get inundated. And these are some of the things. And they had taken 13, SDG 13 as their, what they were teaching. And this is what the parents had to see. You can see SDG 13. So if grade 3 can do it, nursery and KG can do it, I'm sure anybody can do it. And we call it the parents walk-in, wherein the parents are the students. Thank you very much to Varkey for giving this opportunity to me to speak. And I apologize once again for the technical snag. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. That was a really fascinating presentation. And I think, everyone today has faced a few problems sharing the screen. And I think it's been the experience over the last couple of years. So please don't worry. I know everyone, I was following the comments and everyone really enjoyed it. We have a couple of minutes for questions, and I have one.
Right.
But if you do have a question, please pop your hand up now. So the question that I wanted to ask before we move on is, you started by talking about the need to prepare young people for, if I understand well, like a changing world, a world in which they'll need to have more grit, in which they'll have to deal with more uncertainty. You shared at the end of your presentation, a few learning resources, but is there a way that you can teach kids to have more grit, to prepare themselves for uncertainty? Is there an effective teaching strategy for that? Or is that just an unfair question to ask? And if so, I apologize.
That's a very fair question to ask. I think sometimes we protect our children too much, and don't allow them enough, or give them that opportunity to understand it's a VUCA world that we are living in today. What could we do when we had Corona come in? There was nothing we could do to protect. We need everybody to understand, including adults, that money doesn't buy you stability in the world. What buys you stability is when we prepare our children for a world which has uncertainty, ambiguity, and volatility. So how do we prepare them? We first make them understand how the world changes. We also give them situations where they have to, give them case studies where they have to give you feedback as to how they can handle that. And, when we give them platforms like Teach Your Parents, and the parents question them, they get ready to answer those questions, which may have just been a little text in the book, So the content to context is very, very important. And I think that's what you are asking, that how do we take from content to context? And you need to take children, like I talked about task, the TRIPS, application, skill, and knowledge, move the knowledge to the skill-based, to the application-based, and to the TRIP-based. Also, I'd like to end with a word which I use very often today, that's transversal education. And transversal, people talk about experiential learning. That's passé, according to me, because that talks about knowledge and skill. What you need to talk about is transversal skills. Transversal skills are knowledge, skill, as in experiences, and employability skills, because that's where the VUCA world exists. So from grade 7 onwards, we give the children a lot of exposure to the outside world by making them do apprenticeship. And also they have something where they are supposed to do startups, etc. And understand that this is what the real world will be. That's why I said that education is preparing them for the real world, and we do it in this way. Of course, they only do it from grade 7 and sometimes from grade 9. But we have these apprenticeship programs where they go out. We had a child who decided to go to a hospital, like we give them hospitality, we give them medical exposure, we give them various exposure, even an NGO's exposure. And that's when they realize what the VUCA actually means, And there was a child who fainted in the hospital and she had taken biology. She immediately changed her stream from biology to another subject. So this is how we prepare the children for the VUCA world, because then you realize when you go out into the real world where you stand. I hope that addressed your question.
It did. No, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for your presentation today. Really interesting to hear about the incredible work that you're doing. And we have some interesting questions coming in from in the chat as well. I think actually our next speaker is also very well placed to speak to some of these issues. And Sean, I imagine your ears were pricking up a little bit with what Rupa was saying, because I know you work on some of these issues as well. So I'm delighted to introduce Sean Bellamy, who is a co-founder at the Sands School in Devon in the UK, and is also a Global Teacher Prize finalist as well. So Sean, over to you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Nicholas. I'm going to get you to be my students for 10 minutes, which is a real privilege. And yes, there's going to be another polar bear, but it's a polar bear that a young person built. And it's going to be a Native American history lesson I'm going to share with you. And there will be a Viking Santa Claus. So if it's about keeping our hope and our inspiration and our joy alive, then I hope we can do it together for this next 10 minutes. If you have a pen and paper, that's perfect, because I'm going to ask you to be, as I say, my students for this very short time. I'm going to show you a photo, 2 photos to start with. And I would love you to think when you see them, what they tell you about care for self, care for others, and care for the planet. So hopefully you can see this photo in front of you. Yes? Nicholas, are we on screen? Have we got this as well, Nicholas? Are we up on screen yet?
I can see it. It's not that big. If there's a way you can make it.
I'll try. The rest of the photos will be bigger, but I'll try and just make that a little bit bigger if I can. Hang on a moment. Is that better?
Yeah, a bit better. Thanks.
Okay. The other photo. This is taken from an amazing guy called Aaron Huey, who works on Native American reservations. And the story I'm going to tell you is from a Native American reservation. I visited this particular reservation, the Pine Ridge, in 1995 and again in 2016. And I saw this, and I saw broken cars, and I saw derelict houses, and I heard stories of higher suicide rates than anywhere in the USA, higher levels of alcoholism, abuse, rape, self-harm, school refusal, an epidemic of ill health. And yet in my mind, when I teach this course, which I have for 35 years, what I thought I was dealing with was the most noble of people, reduced to this. And both those times, and once with Maggie MacDonald, who's an amazing Varkey ambassador as well, I sat with a group of students and I asked them this question: what is it that's taken your amazing people to this? And they answered: loss of culture and identity, loss of voice, loss of purpose and relevance, loss of connection, and a separation from nature and natural rhythms and expertise and adventure. I'm going to write those things in our share screen, because what I like to do is then show you group of pictures from a school that I started with a group of children in 1987. And what I'd love you to do is see if you can find any evidence of identity, culture, voice, purpose, relevance, connection to nature, adventures, rites of passage. You can see them in these photographs from this school that was co-created with 14 young people 35 years ago. Because I think if we're talking about care of self, care for others and care for the planet, teaching it is one thing, but actually modeling it deeply within our communities is another. And often there is a hypocrisy and a dissonance between what we say we teach within our SDGs and actually how our schools actually function and what our culture, school cultures are like. So if I were to, I'm just going to, just excuse me a minute while I drop off screen. And if I write in our whiteboard, these things that these young people told me was at the heart of the ill health and the sadness of their communities. And then I'll take you through a collection of these slides. They said, loss of identity. They said, loss of voice. And I wonder how many children within our schools really feel they have a voice, because one of the things at the heart of depression and an inability to take care of yourself is loss of power. And sometimes we try and protect children by making decisions for them. One of the most powerful things we can do is offer them decisions. Loss of purpose, loss of connection. Purpose. Connection to nature. Adventure. To be able to follow your natural rhythms as a person. Excuse me, sorry. And finally, expertise and rites of passage. Now, identity, voice, connection, purpose, connection to nature, adventures in our lives, following our natural rhythms and having access to expertise. Most teachers can probably feel like this is what they think they do within their classrooms, within their schools. I think if we're going to talk about SDGs, we're going to talk about offering children this ability to take care of themselves, to take care of the planet and others. Then I think it's more likely that it's going to work if our school cultures reflect it. So I'm going to just take you through these slides. I took them over about 5 weeks at SANS. Because children realize that they can learn in whatever they want. They can take control of their bodies. You can learn in a onesie. You don't have to be in uniform. You need time to just slow down and decompress, particularly during this time of COVID. And our children have spent more time on sofas, talking, reflecting. Giving children time to find their natural rhythm is at the heart of them being able to understand self-care. Taking them on adventures, because what we now do is we travel the planet when we're allowed, and we bring this story to other schools, and these children make connections so they feel like global citizens, and they share their worries and their concerns and their voices. And we have amazing adventures. We spend time in Korea as a school, and Korea comes to us, and this idea of beautiful connection across the planet, so we don't feel alone, and children feel deeply connected to multiple cultures, and nature at the heart of all of it. When the first sun comes out in the spring in the UK, everyone runs outside, and we spend days on the grass in the sunshine. And I know that the world says these children should be studying for exams and that we should be catching up because of COVID, but the thing that gives them joy And the thing that gives them that resilience and grit isn't just making them work hard. It's throwing yourself into freezing water. It's building beautiful sculptures and being surrounded by aesthetic and nature. It's connecting groups together so that over these 6 years they spend at SANS, they understand that they're caring for each other. We are not teaching this. This is what happens in a community where children have voice, where there is no head teacher, there is no uniform. The school is run by the whole community. So we learn empathy, we learn how to solve problems together, we learn how to build beautiful, crazy things. And the polar bear you can see there was built by a young girl who decided she was going to tell her story to the world that polar bears were dying in the melting ice. 3 months she spent away from class, pulling in experts to help her do it, talking to press, finding her political voice, finding her grit and determination, surrounding herself with the people that could help her do something. And eventually, you finish up the children. So, children with voice. They organized that march themselves. Lily had made a polar bear. The others had helped make a miniature elephant to take to these climate marches. They weren't in class, they were building their expertise. They were having adventures in the world. They were dressing crazy. We were pulling people together from across the planet. We were putting children into nature, allowing them to test and stretch themselves. This is just part of the school. This would be one part of the meeting where we make all the decisions on appointment of staff, on how we're going to deal with COVID rules. Where play is an essential part, but the expertise of learning how to play giant chess. This isn't us patronizing children. This is about stretching them in expertise. Intimacy, connection, practical relevant things. This is me teaching children, not just how to make pizza. We're making pizza for the whole school. This little girl here is 12 years old and she's cooking for everyone. And she's learning how to do it to time. Real world experiences, menus to share. If we get it wrong, it matters. Dough balls, 150 dough balls. Learning in beautiful classrooms, bringing nature inside. Ensuring that children have all those things. Spending 3 months out of class, building a polar bear to take on to Dartmoor, to bring the politicians, to bring the journalists. Making community. Christmas celebrations and rites of passage. Every single year, this guy dresses up as a different sort of Santa Claus. Putting ourselves against the elements. And to finish, this is a young guy back in Pine Ridge. And the scars in his chest, he's allowed to do the Sundance ritual again. He's allowed to connect to his culture. He's allowed his voice as a Native American. He's found purpose. He's connected again to nature. He's found the expertise to go back to the horses, to go back to the traditional methods of his landscape and his people. He's following the natural rhythms of the seasons. And I think if we have schools that do that, that if we take our lesson from an epidemic of ill health on this reservation, and we say, are our schools actually doing this? Then we could create schools that nurture all those SDGs, and our children grow up to be empathic. They learn how to care for themselves, for each other, and for the planet we live on. And none of that is taught. That is deeply embedded in the culture of the school. So.
Thank you so much. That was really fascinating and such an amazing experience and a very, very different way of looking at education. We've got a couple of minutes. Are there any questions for Sean before we move on? Please put up your hand and I'll come to you. I had a quick question myself, if that's okay. So we've been through a couple of years now of COVID, and it strikes me that COVID has really struck at the heart of education and at the heart of what you've been talking about children's identity and voice and their connection both to nature and their opportunity to test themselves, to go on adventures. And I know you've been doing a lot of work trying to rebuild, to get students' voices and what education should look like after the pandemic. Could you talk just a little bit about that for a couple of minutes?
Yeah. So what seemed to us really important was that when this giant noisy machine of education eventually shut off, and then the silence left behind, we had a chance to really listen to children. And so we grabbed that opportunity and we met children from multiple schools within the UK, and then with Nicholas's help, schools from across the planet. And we asked them two simple questions. While you're in lockdown, when you're at home, what is it that you're missing about school? Because that would be the essence of what school should be. And they came up with similar answers, Nicholas. And we were talking with children from Brazil and Argentina and Poland and from India. And it was things like, we missed the connection with our friends. We missed the food because actually sometimes school is the only place children get fed. We missed the safety of knowing that our teachers care because our parents are alcoholic or abusive. We found some really profound answers about what school is. Lots of children did say they loved it because they were inspiring teachers and developing their expertise, and they knew the real world wanted them to be experts. But actually what they described was really beautiful, safe communities. And I think that was the opportunity we had. What we found at SANS, I'll say in my last few seconds, is that because we don't interfere with children's rhythms, they spent more time decompressing. So instead of trying to catch up with lessons and learning, they spent time catching up with each other. And instead of an epidemic of poor behavior, which we're experiencing globally, we've had an epidemic of good behavior. We've had less learning, but we've had children healing themselves.
Thanks so much, Sean. Really, really interesting. And I'd encourage all of you to check out more of Sean's work as well. I'm now delighted to introduce our next speaker, Sybil Tartut, who is an English teacher in Dublin, Ireland. Sybil, over to you.
Hi, my name is Sybil, and I'm a teacher both in Turkey and Ireland. And today we will be talking about the integration of art and expression in education. So first of all, let me share my screen, which is here. Can you all see the screen?
I can't see it on my computer.
You can't?
I can see it now. I can see it now.
Oh, great. So, just a second. So, before we start this session, I would like you to go. I'm going to share something on the chat, so I would like you to just tap this code and just write what comes to your mind upon hearing the word art. The code is over here, as you can see, but I'll try to share it. Just a second. So you can see it on the chat as well. Can you all see the code and that link?
I can see it, and I can see the...
Great. So I would like you to write down the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word art. Okay. Can you also see the Mentimeter page that I opened now?
On my screen, I see a slide with the questions.
Okay, I'll just try to change so that we can see.
When I open Mentimeter, I can see the poll, and then when it closes, it just comes up with an image.
Okay. Okay, we have beauty, creativity, visual. What else? Is there anything else you would like to add apart from all these words?
I added culture.
Culture, I can't see it now.
Oh, I think it came up with what's another word, so I added 2 words.
It doesn't matter. Well, that's fine. Yeah, life, visual, beauty, creativity. Let me see now. I can type anything. Okay, we'll come back to this later on because I think still some of us are adding. Okay, so now can you see the slides? I'll change page.
At the moment, I can see the slide. What's the first thing that comes?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll just keep going. I'll go back to the Menti later on. So today we'll be talking about the integration of art into education. Art, we talk about the meaning of art. As you know, art is organized expression of ideas, feelings, and experiences in images, music, language, and the movements. So, why all these are important in education? It grows mindset. It also builds self-confidence in learners. It improves their cognition and communication. All these students and learners become creative thinkers. The most important one. Sorry.
Sibel, can you hear me? Yeah, we are still seeing your the Mentimeter page. We're not on your presentation.
Okay. So no problem. Yeah. Is this all right now?
Yes, perfect.
Amazing. Yeah. So yeah. And the most important one is art brings parents to school. It encourages teamwork. It builds a strong work ethic, and it encourages learners to express themselves. But how can art be integrated into education? We can use art as a tool to enact positive changes in school, society, and the planet by combining our power with parents, schools, students, and community, also by teaching universal values. When we bring all this together, I'm sure the learners will learn to take care of themselves, others, and the planet. And here I'm going to talk briefly about 5 of my projects on this theme. The first one is learning to take care of oneself with the Purpose Project. The Purpose Project is basically about the Japanese Ikigai concept of meaning. Here, we teach kids to discover their skills, to discover also their hopes, their talents, their fears. Here they analyze the problems around their community, and they find the real personal motivators, and they try to find possible solutions for the problems that they suggest. As we have no time to we haven't enough time to explain all of this. Just what I want to say is, you can ask the kids to write 3 things that they like most, 3 problems that they think very important in the planet, and 3 possible contributions that they would make in the future for this. When they answer to these 3 questions, they will learn to take care of oneself by discovering their own potential. In the second part, learning to take care of others, English through art. This is also one of our projects which was done like 3 years ago. Here, we try to create a friendly and creative school atmosphere. Also, we supported the foundation of art clubs and activities. And we did our best to integrate art into school curriculum from like math to science. And we taught our cultural heritages, our shared values, our shared earth. And last one was about engaging parents in school activities. All these things that you see here, they all are like about integration of art into education. So let's look at them briefly. So these are some pictures from the things that we created in our classrooms and in our schools. As you can see, it's like art-friendly classroom atmosphere. We encourage our students and our teachers, also parents, to join in our art club activities, and we try to exhibit them, perform them. Apart from this, we have writing and reading poem activities. Here, students, in the classroom, we have Turkish and English teachers as well. They read and write poems in both languages. And we have interdisciplinary works as integration of art into the other school subjects, such as science, math, and IT. In math, students created some models like 3D models or sculptures, illustrations. In IT, they use technology from Web 2 tools to CoSpace IE or the other Khan Academy, whatever. And in science, it's the same. We use so many different technological utensils. And also students drew some posters and they created some art pieces about our cultural heritages and our shared values, such as respect, love, peace, human rights. And they did some environmental projects as well. Family integration through reading and painting. I believe that like family is the first school that the students go. So when we integrate them into education, I think the children they just enjoy more. So you can prepare some materials so that kids can do them at home with their parents, or the parents can come to school to be involved in the lessons. And here again, collaboration, teaching to parents. This school was in the eastern part of Turkey, so they were quite disadvantaged. Here the students are teaching literacy, sign language, numeracy, and theater to their own parents. But all those things are like based on art. And here, theater again, the father of one of my students, mothers, 2 couples. So I think we had 57 parents in this theater project. And here again, they perform their activities to our small community and to nationwide. And yeah. Okay. So the other one is learning to take care of the planet. Here we will be talking about the intangible cultural heritages and the integration of museum and art into language education and the sustainable development goals through art. As we have limited time, I'm just trying to talk briefly about all of this. I think it makes sense. We can teach our kids, learners, which include parents as well, recycling. They can create like coursework material, or like they can design costumes for so that you can use theater experiences or classroom experiences from recycled materials. And the other one is about the integration of museums and art into language education. This was a project that I did, like, I think 2 years ago. There were like 12 schools all around the world. We visited 30 virtual museums from France to Colombia to Japan. And we used so many Web2 tools and technology. Here, students learned to write poem, paint, they danced, they used digital art. They learned about preservation of our cultural heritages. 2 of our schools set their own museums, and we got around 300 masterpieces from our students about the intangible cultural heritages. So here, students try to visit museums online, and they try to repainted some masterpieces from the famous painters. They analyzed the objects that they liked in the museums. We used Web2 tools to learn more about the museums and the objects and the life of the painters, the artists. And here you can see the string art. It's one of the intangible cultural heritages of UNESCO. And at school, we tried to solve the absenteeism problem with this project. And here again, they made cartoons, and these are the museums. So in the other part, again, each month our students visited some virtual museums all around the world. And here I think they tried to write poems about each pictures they like. Sometimes they work in collaboration, sometimes they just work individually. But at the end, we have like 100 pages of book, like poetry book. And the last thing that I would like to talk about, the integration of art with sustainable development goals. Last year and still, I have been volunteering with European Solidarity Corps. I was in Ireland, and there what we did was teaching kids the 17 goals of SD Sustainable Development Goals. For the quality education, we did our best to encourage them to learn about STEAM, virtual reality, making, hero, coding, Web2 tools, and digital art. Also, they learned about budget planning, responsible consumption. As you can see in this small picture over here that I'm shaking, they learned how to create sustainable cities and communities from the recyclable materials. Also, they searched about the lives of some famous human rights activists and people to learn more about peace and justice, and to support good health and well-being with its sport activities, dances, and again, all these activities were about integration of art. Here, the first picture is about digital storytelling, and second one, they are doing making and trying to play the piano, and like some scientific experimentation, art, and this one is coding. And the last one is all about coding and robotics. And I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any question, I don't know if we have any time for the question and reflection part, but if we have, I would like to share all the questions on Jamboard so that we can all answer to them, or you can just ask me.
Thanks so much, Sibel. I think we have a few minutes for questions. If you do have a question, please pop your hand up or put it in the chat. I'm just scrolling through the participant list now.
Now, I know that we're just running a little bit out of time, so I can just try to answer them directly.
I actually had one question. I had a remarkable question, and I'll abuse my privilege as a moderator. So at the beginning, I think it was excellent. You asked us what word springs to mind in education, and I was thinking of culture and expression. But as you talked, it occurred to me that perhaps the best one is connectivity, because you were talking about how art connects, students to learning and parents to schools, and all of us to, sustainable development. So thank you for that. That was a really insightful presentation. My question is, across many countries, we've seen governments cut back on funding for humanities, and in particular the arts. Is that something that's affecting you, and is that a concern?
Well, actually not, because all these things that I showed you, they all were like self-funded. There are so many like non-governmental organizations which are just ready to give you a hand, which are ready to help you. So yeah, well, in Ireland, the government supports both art and technology. In Turkey, well, yeah, I think art is a little bit not well supported, but it all depends on the teachers and the school administrations, I guess. If we want, yeah, we can do it.
Well, thanks so much again. Thank you for your time and for the presentation.
Thank you.
I'm a big museum nut, so it's always nice to see lots of kind of different art and galleries in a presentation. Thank you. Finally, I am delighted to introduce our last speaker, Peter Tabichi from Nakuru in Kenya. Peter is our 2019 Global Teacher Prize winner, and he's our last speaker today. So Peter, thanks for your patience, and I turn it over to you.
Thanks so much for this chance to make my presentation. I've actually been waiting and learning and listening. It was a great moment to learn, starting from race to all the rest, and it was great insights and enlightenment. So it is a moment of learning. I've been a student and learning new things. So thanks so much. I hope I'm also going to give my side of the story. So it's like most of the things have been said, so I don't know whether I'll find myself repeating what has been just been mentioned, but I just try to stick what I had already prepared. And here in Kenya, so much going on. We are back to school, and just had a few minutes here and there to make my preparation. So it might not be all that perfect, but I just try to do my best. So let me share my screen. I'm trying to share my screen here.
No problem.
Oh yeah, I see it. So my focus will be on this, the theme, which is how to care for oneself, others, and the planet. And as we are aware that education can address key global issues linked to sustainable development, ranging from mental well-being to ecological. So I'm just going to make my presentation based on what I do and how I'm trying to integrate these aspects in my, during my teaching. So maybe I'll start with what inspired me to become a teacher. So most of the time, right from my childhood, I've been surrounded by teachers, and I saw how they were able to solve serious problems. They were great problem solvers, my own father, and that inspired me. I thought to be a teacher is great. And I thought once you do that, you'd be able to also give your contribution to the society. And I've come across so many educators who have transformed the society, who are helping give students, even the most disadvantaged parts of the world, the tools they need so that they can be able to face the challenges. So what is my drive to help these disadvantaged student pupils and the poor? So there are so many challenges. Observing these challenges is what made me feel like, oh, as a teacher, I not just sit back and watch. So it's good to take an action. And I think it's education not just about academic success. You also have to work with the community and try to offer solutions. And they were facing so many challenges. We have many who are orphans, and they come from very poor backgrounds, very humble backgrounds, and there's food shortage, and there's climate issues to do with the climate. Like right now, we not been receiving rain for quite a number of days, and then we also have many students who walk to school for long distances. Besides that, we also have drug abuse, teenage pregnancy, early dropouts. Like now, just a few months ago, because of COVID, this has even worsened. So we have seen, many cases of drug abuse, teenage pregnancies, early dropouts, and young marriage, and even some students did not report back to school. But despite these challenges, we as teachers have confidence and believe that the students can still achieve their best if given the right support. So you don't just sit and give up and surrender and say that, oh, they are facing this and they cannot. So we have to believe in them, have confidence in them, and seen that they have their talents, they seen their intelligence, and this is what I've taken advantage of to ensure that they are given the right support. And this all starts with boosting their self-esteem. And one way of boosting their self-esteem is to take advantage of their gifts, their talents, through social activities like starting clubs, and so many types of clubs which we were there, try to expand them. And this was a way of making them grow in confidence and creativity that has been mentioned. And the moment they are creative, you find that they are learning, and the learning becomes very active. So, and once they are engaged in these activities, you find that they are able to succeed and achieve so much. And when you see them succeeding, you become happy. And I'm very sure many of you can agree with me that this is the greatest joy as a teacher, when you see success, the success of your learners. So my approach to teaching and the best practices I'll share with others, it's not that I do new things. I can just like more of what has been mentioned here. So let me also share. So the first one is importance of face-to-face contact and social activities in education. It's not just about lecturing and just being in the four-wall classroom and all the time they are seated and listening to you. You have to kind of look for ways, an interactive way of making them engaged. And that's why the social activities come in. And therefore, this means introducing different things in different situations, being flexible and being creative so that you respond to their needs. Bearing in mind that they all come from different backgrounds and they don't actually require the same attention. So you have to respond to their different needs. And therefore, that's why clubs become very useful. And we have engaged them in science clubs, that's the STEM clubs, the Peace Club, to bring the diverse communities together, because our students come from different cultural backgrounds. So you see them working together through those social activities. And then there is also Talent Nurturing Club to help bring out the best in our students and build their self-confidence. And then there's also need to give one-to-one tuition, because as I said at the beginning, that they don't have the same abilities. They don't have, they need different to be supported, individuals, a kind of support based on their individual needs. And therefore, that's why you find that there are those ones who are struggling the bottom of the class. And therefore, that's why at times we give them one-to-one tuition. And then at times we also go out to their homes to meet their family members, so that we'll be able to understand the families, the challenges they are facing, and we are able to interact with them, even work with them and learn with them. And therefore, this means that you have to be creative, and that's try to do, to be creative. Otherwise, you won't be able to achieve much. And also, you have to adapt and think on your feet to get the best out of the students. Then the second is about giving them resources. Resources are very important. Learning resources are very important. Without the resources, it will be very hard. So I remember the first time when I joined the school, there were very few resources. Even the classrooms were like crowded, and we remember only seeing one desktop computer. But right now, I'm very happy that I've partnered, our school has partnered with many organizations and many people, and we have seen so much happening. Maybe like here, just in a photo, just partnering with local organizations, and just from one computer. And right now we have more than 50, and so much is coming. And the overcrowding I used to talk about is we no longer have that. Right now we have more buildings, and there's more space, and we're receiving so many people who are coming to see, learning from us what we are doing and giving us more support. And the same is happening not only in our school, but even in the neighboring schools. But I think that is coming through the spirit of working with people, being ready to work with people, partner with people, organizations, and understanding. When they understand what you are doing, they are able to come in and give you the support. And right now we have our school connected. Even right now I'm enjoying the free internet connectivity. And like just a few years ago, I used to strain with the mobile here trying to make a connection. But right now, the morning, right now is just a free internet. And there's so many other resources, which including the library, which are making learning interesting, and and that's really helping us a lot. And like also a few years ago, I used to go to the nearby, I had to travel trek to the nearby centers and the towns to download material from the cyber cafes. So, but this is all about really working with people and knowing that there's best that we can get out of our young people. And there are also lessons that I've learned from from bringing diverse communities together. I think that's the spirit, focusing on bringing people together. Besides just, I said at the beginning that besides just being in the four-wall classroom, I also try to get time to go out to the nearby community, try to work with them, because this is where the students come from. So learn with them or show them the literature that we know. So because education is not just about academic success, there's so much that can be achieved if we also engage, also work with the community, and also engaging the students in science activities, club activities, and all of that. Seeing them working together, I've seen that they are able to learn a lot, and they are able to see the need to work together, enhancing collaboration, and knowing the, learning to think critically. They are able to, solve the challenges that the society is, is facing. And that has made them go very far, not just get a local recognition, but even beyond the outside this call it a county, but even beyond the county and the region, and even outside the country. And that gives us, makes us very, very happy. And we also seen students succeeding in sciences, and which has just changed right from the beginning when just a few years ago, they had we had to make them believe that they have the potential to shine and achieve a lot. Just using that, their kids, we have seen them also, some of them doing so well, and even getting recognition from global organizations, and even some shining outside the continent, outside even Africa. Like in this photo here, we had the students who are recognized by UNESCO, and they matched the best when they were participating in their category. And remember that they were participating with schools from all over the world, which had been vetted, and they managed to emerge the best from that category. So, and they have shown that with very few resources they can compete on a world stage in science and technology. So we have various groups who have succeeded from chemistry, mathematics, and other categories. And we also have others who have done so well in academic, besides these other areas, academic. Even right now, we have students who are in the US doing science courses, STEM courses, just because of this. After knowing that there's something they have, there's something they can do, and they are in the best universities here in Kenya and outside in the US. We have some students who are in the US at the moment doing the STEM courses, and they are all the time we are in communication, and they are performing so well, and I'm very, very happy. As teachers, we are very happy, and I believe that at the end of it, they are going to achieve a lot. They continue doing that, and they'll be able to transform the world. So I want to use my achievement that I've achieved to continue transforming the world. What we have been doing, we continue doing better, and there's more opportunities ahead, and we want to do that to ensure that we give back to the community, and ensure that you know, we see the society succeeding. And I really want to thank God because I didn't know that just by becoming a teacher, it will bring such a big impact, not just in my classroom, but even within the whole school and even outside the local community. So, and I've seen so much progress, and that has just changed me and my mindset about a teacher or education, and that it can trigger, it can bring a lot of progress, a lot of a positive impact, and it can transform the society. And that's it's been my dream that continues. That continues. And there's so much we have been doing around climate change, and also as I said, that education is not just about academic success, so at times also engage the community and my students in learning some aspects about the need to conserve the environment, and there are also projects right now I'm working on that will aim at, you know, engaging the students in give them a chance to learn, to have access to learning resources, and having solar energy for lighting in their homes, because majority don't have the lighting at their homes. And those are some of the projects at the moment we are doing. And at the moment, I believe that there is a need, now that education can do so much, I feel like there's a need to champion education, not just have access to education, but also work on the quality, because if you come to Africa, like now in Kenya, those families that have taken their children to school, you see them shining, and they have done so. You can't compare those families and those ones where they have not taken their children to school. And therefore, it means that education needs to be, you know, given a priority, and we need to do more to champion education. And today's young people will have to tackle so many challenges when they grow up, which ranging from fourth industrial revolution, environmental, ecological problems, climate change, and therefore this can only be achieved if we give them the support, we give education a priority. And at the same time, we also remember about girls, so that we talk of bringing the issue of gender balance. At times you find that they are forgotten, so that they don't have that mentality that their role is just to be in kitchen, to get married, you know, to start a family. It's outside that they also have that capacity to transform the world, and I've been championing that, and so many girls are now doing well. And most of my students who have been doing so well, once they're given proper support, are girls. And therefore it means girls, once they are given proper support, they can really do well. And there's also need to have an inclusive education. And therefore, like my community where I come from, there are so many needy cases, and you find that the very bright students are not able to achieve their best simply because they don't have the resources. And therefore, I believe that there's a need for societies to come together to, you know, see ways on how that can be supported. And I'm at the forefront championing that, even using my personal resources, partnering with the organization and other people to ensure that these needy children are given support. And that is happening, and I'm getting a lot of positive, you know, feedback and support from the many organizations. And we are seeing so many children who are receiving support in terms of learning facilities, and yes, they are receiving so many, and including this payment of school fees and so on and so forth. And the most important thing that we should not forget is about teachers. Yes, you can do everything, but if you forget that teachers are the ones who are like the backbone of everything, then you'll not be able to do the right thing. So we also need to remember about teachers and ensure that they are given full support. And we need to give teaching its right of place and make it attractive for profession for our best students. And we also have to be aware that teaching is a special vocation, a deep responsibility, and a task of huge importance. And therefore, that's why I feel so much privileged to be the ambassador of Global Teacher Prize. And now that it was a great privilege to be given the recognition. Thanks so much for listening to me. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. And it's been a real privilege, as always, to listen to you and to hear about the incredible work that you're doing with so little. You've managed to achieve so much. So thank you so much. Always a pleasure to speak to you. I'm conscious of time, but are there any questions around the table for Peter? Please raise your hand if there is a question or a comment that you'd like to make. I have one thing from my side, Peter. You've done a huge amount with only kind of one computer at school, one working computer linked to the internet. I know you're trying to build up the capacity, but do you think that your impact could be greater if you build this computer laboratory? Is it going to transform the way that you teach? Or, you know, what kind of impact will having more technology in the classroom do for you?
So having improving on the infrastructure, including the technology that's in ICT, I think this is going to create an opportunity, not just for my school, but even to have connections with the rest of the world, in that the students will be able to interact with the students from other institutions. Like right now, we have a summer program. One of the schools from UK has partners with us, so we have a program whereby we'll be interacting. So that will now give us an opportunity to be able to interact with the other institutions. And then at the same time, that will also enhance research and make learning easier. Like now, students engage students in STEM activities, so they'll be able to do their research, and learning will be made easier. So it is actually what I can say in summary is that it's going to make learning easier and more meaningful. Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Peter. And on behalf of the Dais and the Varkey Foundation, please let me thank all the participants today and all of the panelists for giving up your valuable time. Please take a look at the chat before you log off, because there's some interesting learning resources and comments there. But thank you for everyone who's joined us today, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope you celebrated the International Day of Education. So goodbye and God bless, and have a wonderful evening. Take care, everyone.